Let's talk herd.
So I think what you're doing with that client is amazing.
Yeah, it's almost like just expanding the intention, like you say, and because I do also I work with people in terms of what I would say awakening their ability with energy, like their ability to sense with their horses. But I think it would be amazingly powerful as well to do this, to have kind of a healing focus on the relationship itself.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never tried that with a horse and a human. I'm trying to think of it. Well, maybe with some, like you say, with with long-term clients,
Mm-hmm.
and I maybe offering that as an actual, maybe defining it as something that you offer is a powerful step to take,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just in the traditional horse world, it's always about the horse, isn't it? Really, or maybe the rider, but not necessarily the guardian as a guardian.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Right.
yeah, I mean that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like something that's maybe being born.
I think it would be a really powerful experience.
Yeah, I had this idea that maybe if that started happening, that would be a way to start bringing more enlightenment or more illumination into the
Mm-hmm.
whole approach with horses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Are there equine therapy centers in the area of France where you are? Or equine leadership? Because here in the States, there are a lot of people that are starting, kind of equine leadership where they're facilitating some leadership training with horses. And obviously there's the therapy ones too. And I've seen, some not so good ones. But I'm wondering if that kind of model is something to.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that, because I would say not really that I know of. It tends to be that the more frontline things are up in the north of the country. And there is a heavy focus now on what's called etology. It's like natural. I suppose you would say it's natural horsemanship. It's more to do with but it tends to end up in a rather aggressive Pirelli type approach.
Yeah.
In terms of equine therapy, I don't really know. There's probably individuals who are doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a friend here who was a client, and we're gonna do a podcast actually, and she's had a very interesting experience in that she decided she was gonna become a trimmer here.
Mm-hmm.
And bring her more ethical approach to trimming.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of understand that, because I trim my own ones, and I do trim a few horses for clients who need who want someone to be kind to their horses, really.
Yes.
And their horses maybe have some with difficulties, and we just take the time, and it's nice, but she tried to do that as a proper business, and she really came up against just a complete lack of understanding. It was about getting that job done. And so we've talked about some way of bringing a different mindset, because in France there's what's called the club system, and it's quite different from the UK or America, in that a club, a club is like a riding school, but you can also have competition horses, and people can compete to quite a high level. So it's like it's all under the same roof.
Okay.
But it's quite exclusive in that you only really have one farrier, you have one trainer, you have
Right.
it's very it's really not progressive at all because of that.
Yeah.
Because there's these traditions that really are rigid and deeply, wired into the system. So
yeah, we have those too.
yeah, so it's I keep feeling that the future is with the children somehow, and I would love to do that. To have some connection with children with my horses, because I think they're ready now as a herd to be, because children are they're just so connected still. And I just feel that there's some potential there, maybe.
Are there any, do you guys do camps, children's camps in the summer?
Yeah, there must be something like that.
Here in the States, there are a lot of barns that have children's camps. Most of them, they're teaching them to ride and how to groom and things like that. But I wonder if you could, kind of test out with a short little kids camp in the summer. Yeah. And see if there's interest, and
that's a great idea.
Make it fun and wild.
Yeah, definitely something to look into. Yeah, that's a good idea. I don't really have any experience of doing anything like that with children, so I suppose it would be a good idea to find someone who does and integrate, maybe with other activities as well, and
maybe there's a teacher.
Because I feel like I feel like a little bit vague still about how to structure that choice-based approach, because you're not insisting that the horses, I've always shied away from, anything that resembles a riding school, or, even like that you would sort of,
right,
put that pressure on the horses that they had to do anything. So it's finding that way for it to, because I'm sure there's so much potential. I want to do a clinic soon, actually, of first of all with adults, but just about that awakening process, and I think that will be amazing, just going into how to become receptive, and finding, and I think that will maybe clarify what's possible with the herd, and how to go about that. It is really exciting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yes. So do you see a lot of people? Is that what you do mainly, the body work and the acupressure and acupuncture?
No acupuncture. I don't do the acupuncture. I just do acupressure. But in the States, you have to be a vet to insert needles. So.
Oh, that's true. Yes. Yeah.
Possibly over in France.
That's true.
So that's what I do, and then I have started some classes. They're all online for the Heartmath, which has been fun trying to.
Oh wow!
Figure out.
So what does that involve?
So it's they're 4 weeks. We meet once a week for 4 weeks. It's a Zoom, you know.
Yeah.
Everybody's, I think, tired of Zoom, but it's like an hour and a half to 2 hours each time. And there are certain techniques that I teach, and then I kind of intermingle helping people understand polyvagal and how your nervous system influences what's happening between your heart and your head. So yeah, it's been really, really fun.
Wow.
And I'm not, I hope I'm having a little impact helping the guardian feel differently with their horse. I really hope that's the case. I start my next class next week, and that'll be my third class.
Wow, that's great.
And then I think I'm going to do, thank you. I'm going to do a little evaluation of all the people who've gone through, just to see, really how are they implementing this in their life, and has it made a change with them and their horses or their dogs. Some people don't have horses, but they have dogs. Just to maybe tweak it if I need to a little bit. But I agree with you. I think for change to happen, I got into this because I heard the word touch when I was recovering from an accident.
Oh, wow.
And it then ended up that I was supposed to touch horses.
That's amazing.
And I did that. Yeah. And I am still very committed to helping horses heal themselves. And yet, I also know that in order to diminish that dis-ease in the horses, it really has to come from the guardian first. So I too am kind of searching for what's the right avenue to combine those two.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating subject, that. Yeah, because I really have changed in terms of the horses in my life. I feel like it's almost turned around, that they're healing me, It's no longer about healing them. And I think I got to that just through this long process of just awakening, just understanding who they are and how they are, and allowing them to be. And one of the major breakthroughs I had in maybe about 5 years ago or so was that I had a focus on healing, on healing them. That was something almost that I took for granted, that like a habit, like an identity of being a healer, and healing horses. And I don't remember if I had a time when I actually thought about it, but I think I probably did, actually. I think some of the horses told me this. They awakened up this idea that we just need you to see us as healed. And that was really powerful for me. So that kind of changed my direction quite a lot. But that's not to say that there's that still, I feel like when I go into that dynamic again, and there is like exactly what you're saying, there's this horses that are in this state of dis-ease. And one of the guests here, Delara, who's talking to, she's a craniosacral therapist, and she described really beautifully how her sessions with the horses, it's like they go beyond the horse and into the relationship. So they're, they have that power. And I think that's what you're doing as well. It's just because you're focusing on the horse doesn't mean that you're not also healing everything. But yeah, it just feels like a really interesting kind of a leap to make, to bring that maybe a bit more into the consciousness of the horse world, that you can heal the relationship as well. Like that essentially that's what you're doing.
Yeah. And I firmly believe, as a bodywork practitioner, but even if I wasn't a bodywork practitioner, that I don't do the healing. I'm just facilitating the horse's body, the horse's energy, the horse's beautiful system to heal itself, hisself, herself. And so to be able to facilitate, and to me, healing is not the same as cure. Healing to me means greater wholeness. Greater wholeness, mind, body, spirit, emotions. And so for a relationship to heal, then each party would need to commit to each other and themselves to want that greater wholeness. Because I don't think I can do that. I can help facilitate that happening.
Yeah, it's almost like I kind of that what that looks like and it was really that's a really important distinction that you made about facilitating, rather than actually doing the healing as such. Definitely. And I think for me, I feel like I just have this sense or kind of what would I call that? It's like it's just a kind of knowing or an expectation. I don't really like without the negative connotations, that everything has an energetic root. So like if you focus on it, then whatever needs to happen or whatever might manifest in the physical world, you can still go to that energetic, that vibrational root, and just by acknowledging it and observing, witnessing. I always think of it as being a witness when you're healing. You're witnessing the unfolding and maybe maybe allowing the channeling of energy, or however you want to put it. But it almost feels like, for me, there's always that potential, like you can so you're healing the relationship in terms of just healing or bringing awareness to that vibrational root. So even if somebody wasn't consciously aware of wanting to heal their relationship, they would still be susceptible to, whatever you want to say, the balancing or the or the unwinding of that vibration. So yeah, I do feel like there is.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you see what I mean? There's always like that, because we just don't know what's going to come up.
So you know that one of the documents that I sent you, the one on the Brahma Viharas,
Oh yeah.
the Four Immeasurables. So this is making me think of that, because when you were talking about the horses telling you or that person that they wanted to be seen as being healed, what that says to me is that they don't want to be pitied, right? Nobody wants to be pitied.
Yeah.
And so oftentimes if I'm working with a horse who's really struggling and who's really got really major health issues, the first thing and the most important thing I tell the guardian is that they are not allowed to talk about this in front of the horse. They should not let people come up and go, oh, poor pony boy.
Yeah.
You know, no pity. They need to be so focused on seeing that great bright light of that being and only focusing on that.
Yes. Yeah.
And so when we talk about pity, and it's on that diagram that I shared with you, is the near enemy of compassion. So a lot of people will, everyone wants to feel compassion and be compassionate. And yet sometimes the energy is just a little off. And so rather than really being compassionate, it's pity. And humans don't want to be pitied. Horses definitely don't want to be pitied.
No.
And so I use the Brahma Viharas when I am checking myself when I'm working with a horse.
Wow.
But I also use it as kind of a template when I'm talking with the guardian. I don't use the same language, but I'm trying to help them create better connection with their horse.
Yeah.
And by aligning themselves with those, it's called the Four Immeasurables. This is all Buddhist philosophy. It directs us towards connection and joining with another, whether it's a horse or a human. But the near and far enemies of those heart-centered emotions drive us away from that connection. It causes separateness. And so pity is, oh my gosh, pity is huge in barns.
Wow.
And it's not a good energy.
Yeah, that's amazing. Oh, I love that. I love that way of describing it, because it's so helpful, especially the idea of that it just being a lack of balance, like that the compassion is not able to come through because you're, and that actual situation with that horse, I remember one horse in particular and she's the only horse that I ever bred in Scotland. And when she was born, I remember sleeping out all night at the field where she was with her mother.
Oh.
Yeah, and in the morning I found she'd been born, I don't think for that long before I got to her, but she was, as the time went on, it became clear that she wasn't quite right. She wasn't really able to stand and suckle properly, so we ended up bringing her in a wheelbarrow, and we got the vet, and our vet didn't actually know what was wrong with her. And my sister was amazing at the time. She actually, because I was just having a complete meltdown. I didn't know what to do. I was just, so upset. And my sister rang this lady that I'd actually done work experience with at one point, and she had a foaling bank. That's what she calls a foaling bank. And she actually does where she will take orphan foals and mothers who've lost their babies and put them together. And she had all kinds of ways of doing that. So she was the right person to ring, because she said, don't worry, you can, you're gonna get through this. You have to get her on a drip.
Yes.
You have to do A, B, and C. And she's got neonatal maladjustment syndrome, because she was a thoroughbred, a pure thoroughbred, and this is something that dummy foal syndrome, it's called. So we stayed up with her all night because we had to hold her. She was having fits. She went into a coma and she was having fits. And so we had to hold her because we had to keep this drip in. And we stayed up all night, and I had treated her because I was doing the craniosacral by then. I think I was still training, but I treated her all night, and I felt there was a bit of her neck that at a certain point in the really early morning, it just flooded through. It just opened up. I felt the energy just flood through into her brain, and she had the worst fit. And then she just stood up. She was able to stand up. And gradually she got her ability to suckle back. And it was really amazing, experience to have with her. And she became a really a normal foal, but she still in my mind was special. And she was what you might call she was a bit different. She would notice different surfaces walking over them, and she was always just a bit different. But every so often in her life, as she got older, she would have these special times, like these times when she just wasn't quite right. And I would treat her again. I didn't ever get conventional because I wasn't really into that anyway. But I felt with her, nothing like that would help her. She needed, because it was her syndrome and, it needed that. And she would come through it. But then she had one when she was, can't remember what age she was. Maybe 8, or she was older. And she just started to lose weight, and she just wasn't coming right, and it was just getting worse. And we did this healing, and we had a student with us at that time who had developed this ability to understand the horse's thoughts. So it was really fascinating because we did this treatment together, and I was feeling the feelings energetically, and she was feeling this whole thought thing that she was going through, and it was like past life experience, and she'd come here to give us a message, and it was really powerful. But the upshot of it all was, I've got to let her go and stop thinking of her as special. And she said to me, I am, and this was a mare who really wasn't very good with she was social, and she'd grown up always in the herd, but she was a bit different always. But she said to me in that session, she said, I'm going to be the lead mare, and I'm going to be this amazingly strong horse, but you have to let me be that. You have to stop kind of labeling me. Just like you say, I don't think it was so much in her case, it maybe wasn't pity as much as just labeling her, thinking of her as special all the time, and that she needed help, and she was handicapped in some way. And
which is pity. It's a variation.
Yeah, I guess it is. It is. Yeah, really. Yeah, I don't like to think of it as that, but it kind of is. And honestly, I didn't even notice. Mm-hmm. I just did let go of that, stop treating her like that. And about, I don't know if it was a year later, I can't remember how much, because she started to get better after that. And a certain amount of time later, I just realized, my God, she's the matriarch of the whole herd. And she was so healthy, and she was so vital and vibrant, and she was white, and just exactly, that image that she'd given me. And she's getting older now, but she's still at the top of the herd. And